Hello, this is Tim Emmons, Philosophy 212, D31, Professor Lee, Vincent's University. And the title of this is The Ethical Ranking of Abortion Cases. My presentation outline includes today's topics, which are my ethical thoughts on abortion, the cases that I'm going to review, the ranking of these cases from least justified to most justified. Now, this I will group with the cases. Then I'm going to explain the reasoning for my rankings, the moral and ethical line clearly defined of how I feel about the abortion issue, and closing thoughts upon the issue. My ethical thoughts on abortion, somewhere in the middle. Abortion is one of the most debated topics in the United States. I weigh each decision on whether I agree with abortion or not on a case by case basis. I do not believe there is a one size fits all approach to an issue that is so deep and controversial. Abortion separates this country immensely. It's sad how divisive the subject is. And I use three key questions and two ethical principles to help me make a judgment on if abortion was an ethically warranted deed. First is, are all those involved taking full responsibility for their actions, or did unforeseen circumstances put them in a compromising position? I really weigh the responsibility issue heavy when I'm speaking about abortion. I believe that people have to be responsible for their actions. Two, how empathetic am I toward the situation? I'm going to be a lot more empathetic toward a rape victim or someone that's had something really bad happen to them that needs to have an abortion than I am someone that just is using it for more of a crutch. Number three, are the personal liberties of those involved being violated? There are some cases where abortion, in some extreme circumstances, was forced, and in other situations where abortion wasn't allowed when it clearly should have been. I use the principles of non-malfeasance when I ask myself, is the abortion or a lack of causing needless harm to the person that's in labor? I also apply the principle of privacy. Is the government intruding when they're not supposed to be? This is a big concern of mine. Sometimes it's better if government's just left out on some issues. Other people would argue otherwise, but I believe the less government intrusion, the better in most cases. And I don't focus so much on law. I think the law has already been decided. I focus more on my personal thoughts and really weigh my ethical philosophy with the given scenario to make a personal judgment myself. Words to live by. Exhibiting too much passion may lead to reckless acts of anger, but not showing any passion is a denial of one's human nature. The healthy path is the middle path, Aristotle. It's one of my favorite philosophers. I really think this is good words in most situations. I think extremism plagues our country right now, and the extremists actually bring about change in a way that they don't like by being extreme. I think there's more people in the middle than what society realizes, and people don't like to be yelled at and told that this is the way it's going to be. We like to do our own thinking on each circumstance. Here's a brief list of the cases. Rape victim in mental hospital. This case concerns a patient that was raped. She was an unmarried young girl and she was impregnated. The victim's father was very upset when this happened, of course, and wanted to abort the unwanted pregnancy. It's a really terrible, tragic thing. Case number 2 is a woman discovers she has leukemia at the same time she is pregnant. And leukemia is an aggressive form of cancer. And she has to basically decide on whether she goes ahead with treatment and loses the baby, or gives up the treatment and keeps the baby and possibly loses her life a lot sooner. Case number 3, brain dead woman whose body was sustained via artificial support because she was pregnant. Poor Mrs. Mendoza, she really had a bad situation here. The family too, they wanted to stop the artificial life support and was ordered by the state of Texas. They couldn't because she was pregnant. Case number 4, IVF created human embryo destroyed for stem cell research and or selective reduction of implanted embryos. Now, this is when a woman goes in for the IFV created embryo to get pregnant and ends up having more than one baby inside of her and decides she only wants one. Case number 5, the Sherry Finkbein case. Mrs. Finkbein was prescribed prescriptions that ended up causing her severe defects from her unborn child. This was a side effect that really wasn't unknown back in the time. I mean, this had been in the 1950s and 60s. The chemical was called famotidine, and it did a lot of bad things to young children or unborn children. Case number 6 is 16-year-old pregnant, single, and financially strapped. It's about a 16-year-old girl who gets pregnant, don't think that she could afford to be a mother at the time, nor does she think her boyfriend could help her with it. Case number 7 is a 25-year-old career woman, pregnant and financially capable. This woman got pregnant kind of like the way I'm taking it on a one-night stand type deal. She is a business-minded woman and wants to move up the corporate ladder and does not want a baby holding her back. Now, case number 8, late term abortion. This is where somebody just goes in at the end of a pregnancy and decides they don't want to be pregnant no more. Baby's almost here, don't want to be pregnant no more. Aborts it with only a few weeks left to go. Okay, so that's a description of the cases that we're reviewing. Now here's how I rank the cases, and these cases are ranked least ethical to most ethical. Number 1, the most least ethical case, in my opinion, is case number 8. Case number 8 is the case about where the woman or pregnant person has a late term abortion. Now, where I put with stipulations. Now, maybe there's something that's causing a need for that abortion. Is the pregnancy, if she goes full term, going to kill the woman? Then that sways my opinion. But if she just decides all of a sudden that, nope, don't want the baby no more, I don't think that's very ethical. Case number 2 is case 7. The 25-year-old business professional decides she wants an abortion because she can't have a baby getting her way of her corporate ladder climbing. I don't think that's very ethical either. She made the choice to copulate with the man to create the child. She's got the means to take care of the child. This was one of those that I don't see very ethical. There wasn't very much personal responsibility applied here. Number 3 is case number 6. This is the opposite spectrum. The young woman is poor and doesn't think she has the means. However, there is adoption. Why just abort a life on a whim of irresponsibility? That's the best way that I could quote it. And I'm going to talk a lot more on that to help with that issue later, on my feelings that would help with that issue. Rank number 4, I have case number 4. Case number 4 involves stem cell research where more than one child was in the mother. This one is another tough one. It would actually also have some stipulations. And one of my stipulations is, what if two or twins, triplets, quadruplets would kill the mother? In that case, I mean, that changes my ethical view on it substantially. Ethically, I don't think it's right just to take it just because you only wanted one baby, but you got two. But if there's an issue that's going to hurt your person, then yes, I could understand having the abortion for that. Now we're getting into the top 4 here that are the most ethical situations. And I noted these because I feel that abortion was necessary. And the reasons that I added was for the principles of respect and or privacy. These cases are ones that I firmly believe that abortion was a necessary step. And if you remember what I said, I always choose the middle ground here. And out of the 8 cases, I've got exactly 4 that I consider not so ethical, and I've got exactly 4 that I consider very ethical. Number 5, case 5, after 2 months of pregnancy, this is Sherry Finkbein. She learned that she might bear a severely deformed child. This case, Sherry Finkbein was the victim of the pharmaceutical company. I honestly feel, in all ethical responsibility, the pharmaceutical company should pay, in fact, for all of Mrs. Finkbein's medical treatment and or abortion. She shouldn't be forced to raise a child that's going to have such drastic disfigurement due to their negligence, not hers. She didn't know. Case number 3 is the Manuzzo case. Mrs. Manuzzo was declared brain dead, and the state of Texas intervened with the family's wishes. The Manuzzo family wanted the life support taken off. They wanted to say goodbye to her, but the state of Texas wouldn't allow that until a court order was put in place. Now, this I don't even really consider an abortion. This I consider let nature be what nature is. If there wasn't life support measures being taken place in case number 3, neither the unborn child, or the mother would have lived anyway. They both went without oxygen for a substantial amount of time, and they both would have ceased to live if it wasn't for artificial means. So this case, I mean, actually case 5 and case 3, they're real similar in my opinion on ethical reasoning. Case number 2, which is the number 7, which is actually my second most ethical reasoning for having an abortion. A woman discovers she has leukemia. Now, this is really bad. If this is her wishes and she wants to continue life and continue treatment and not have a pregnancy interfere with it, I 100% agree that should be her choice. This is not something that she could help. She's a victim of circumstance. And number 8, which is actually my most ethical reasoning for having an abortion, is the poor young victim in the mental hospital. This is a terrible case to look at, and no family, person, anyone should ever have to go through this kind of pain that this poor girl had suffered. So, to end the pregnancy is definitely the number 1 most ethical thing to do in this case. All right, moving on to a little bit of explanation and my ethical line defined. My ethical line Cases that involve victimizing a person or result in an immediate concern for a person is on the okay abortion side of my ethical line. And I kind of outlined that when I went through the cases. I really feel that if there's an immediate medical concern for a person, that she's a victim of circumstance, that there's extraordinary issues in the case, then abortion is indeed ethical. On the other extreme side, when abortion is not okay, in my ethical opinion, there's no regard for personal responsibility. They're not a victim of circumstance. They chose to have sex and produce a child, both the man and the female, mind you. So, abortion to me shouldn't be used as a crutch as what could have been preventative birth control in this scenario. People have to take responsibility for their actions. And I think as a society, we get more and more away from that. And this is something that people in the middle, I think a lot of people in the middle believe when it comes to this issue. We don't want people screaming, it's my right to have an abortion. No, we want you to explain what the situation is to lead to that choice. And I think that's how a lot of people feel in this country. And I think the pro choice side would do a lot better if they catered and paved a path to the middle by using that philosophy, not just the screaming and marching and it's my right stuff. We want to know what caused the issue for this to even be thought about. And a lack of personal responsibility just doesn't cut it. It just don't. Closing thoughts. The abortion issue needs to be looked at as a people issue, not a political or religious issue, but a people issue that needs to be weighed on a case by case basis. I can't stress this enough. Every situation is different. People get abortions for all different kinds of reasons. And to just ultimately outlaw or ultimately allow, that's not being in the middle. There has to be a set of standards in place. And I'm not sure if they need to necessarily be government standards, but personal ethical standards need to be in place when determining something so, I mean, it's life or death. There needs to be wiggle room when a law is created because the issue isn't so black and white as extremists would lead you to believe. This is so true. I mean, it's what I've talked about the whole presentation, that it isn't a black and white issue. There is a lot of muddy in the middle that needs to be sorted and sifted. And just looking at 8 cases, that is nowhere near all the situations that could take place. It could be one in a million different situations. So we can't paint black and white on to this, left and right, red or blue, whatever you want to call it. It needs to be thought about each time. Focus needs to shift from the arguing extremists to helping people obtain sexual education. Sexual education is severely lacking in this country. We've learned about that in this course, and I've learned about it in other courses as well. Sexual education plays a big part in abortions. If someone doesn't really understand or know or is educated and correctly educated, not just extremist educated, then the chances of them needing an abortion are a lot less. Equality across the sex spectrum. This is so true. Women and everything in between needs to be held to an equal standard. I believe all people should be treated equal. There shouldn't be you get a pass because you're this or you get a pass because you're that. And I don't mean catering to anyone at all. I mean equality in the most extraordinary sense. And resources need to be made available if an unexpected pregnancy occurs. This is one of the biggest reasons that women get abortions is because they can't afford the child. And that's a terrible reason as a society. I'm not blaming the woman there. I'm blaming society. Society needs to make a way to where pregnancy doesn't result in ultimate thinking, I can't afford this. I'm a big fan of a universal health care. I wish that this country would start looking a lot harder at something like that. And unexpected pregnancies cost a lot, and it weighs heavy on people. The red tape also needs cut that prevents millions of would-be parents that can't conceive from adopting a child. This is true. There is so much red tape involved. If you try to adopt a child, so many hoops you have to jump through. That just makes it worse. I mean, of course, abortions are going to rise because people know this. I mean, according to AmericanAdoptions.com, it costs around $70,000 to adopt a child from a private agency. $70,000. There is no sense in that. Where is the help? Again, you want to lower the abortions? Help people. That's the main reason. Start implementing policies that help both sides. We'll have it. That way, both sides will have something to cheer about. This is so true. You start implementing policies that actually helps people and not hinders, then the red and the blue, the left and the right, will have something to cheer about on this. They'll see the good. Because most people, not everybody, but most people want to have families and raise families, and it's very hard to. And I think that's why you're going to start seeing, and you are seeing, more and more of a low birth rate, especially amongst educated folks. People realize it costs a lot to raise a child. And if we don't have no support system, it's terrifying. So that's my presentation. I hope you enjoyed it, Professor Lee, and everybody else that might watch. Thank you.